Jaya Swaminarayan. Today we are reading Loya 7 of the Vachanamrut. This passage is titled Realizing God Through the Indriyas, the Antahkaran and Experience. Indriyas referred to our sense organs. The Antahkaran refers to our inner faculties of cognition. On Magshar Sudhi III, Samvat 1877, or the 8th of December 1820, Sriji Maharaj was sitting on a large decorated cot in Surya Khachar's darbar in Loya. His head was adorned with a white pag, from which a choglu emerged from one side. He was wearing a white dagli made of chint and a white cotton-padded surval. He had also covered himself with a white blanket. At that time, an assembly of munis, as well as devotees from various places, had gathered before him. In the assembly, Nityanand Swami brought the Vachanamrut manuscript and presented it to Sriji Maharaj. Sriji Maharaj examined the manuscript and was extremely pleased. He then said to the Paramhansas, "Today, please ask complex questions so that we may talk." I heard about this passage. I didn't expect to reach it so soon that in the very Vachanamrut, a very early draft of it was presented to Sriji Maharaj, and he gave his approval for it. Thereupon, Muktanand Swami asked, "The Shruti state, Rute Jnana Muktihi," which means there is no liberation without Jnana, without knowing wisdom. That's from the Hiranyakeshiya Shaka Shruti. As well as Tam eva veditva tim mrutyumeti nanyaha pantha vidyate yanaya. From the Shvetashvaratara Upanishad, 3rd chapter, 8th verse, which means, "Only by knowing Him does one transcend death. There is no other path for attaining liberation." These Vedic verses proclaim that the jiva attains liberation only when it realizes the true jnana, knowledge of God. If liberation can only be attained by jnana, then why do the scriptures also prescribe other spiritual endeavors for attaining liberation? Hearing this question, Sriji Maharaj said, "Jnana means to know." And actually, the English verb to know, you might observe that there's a silent K in front of it. Etymologically, this comes from this word jnana, which is sometimes said today with a silent J in front of it. Others pronounce it maybe differently. But before, in Old English, this word know in English would be pronounced with the K in front. It would sound like kno, kno. And I believe that came from the Greek word relating to knowledge as well, gnosis, which has a G, sometimes pronounced, other times silent, all the way back to, as we said, this Sanskrit word, jnana. At this point, Nityanand Swami raised a doubt. He said, "If jnana means merely to know, then the whole world knows God through the scriptures, yet everyone does not attain liberation." Hearing this, Sriji Maharaj raised the question, "Just as one does not attain liberation by knowing the previously incarnated forms of God through the scriptures, do you think all those who actually had the darshan, the sight of Ram, Krishna, and the other avatars of God with their own eyes attained liberation?" Avatar as an English word also comes from Sanskrit, coming from the verb like avatarati, which means he or she descends. So an avatar literally means a descension, in this case of God. Muktanand Swami replied, those who merely see the manifest form of God attain liberation only after several lives. Shriji Maharaj added, those who know God through the scriptures also receive liberation after several lives. Why? Because whom these people know through the scriptures is whom the other people see with their eyes, and whom the other people see with their eyes is whom these people know through the scriptures. Thus the resulting fruits of both are equal, and both attain liberation after several lives. That was a complicated sentence. I'm just going to read that one more time. Why? Because whom these people know through the scriptures is whom the other people see with their eyes, and whom the other people see with their eyes is whom these people know through the scriptures. Thus, the resulting fruits of both are equal, and both attain liberation after several lives. After all, is not hearing God with one's ears jnana? It is, but that can be said to be merely hearing God. It is not touching God with one's skin also jnana. It is, but that can be said to be merely touching God. Is not seeing God with one's eyes jnana? It is, but that is merely seeing God. Is not smelling God with one's nose jnana as well? It is, but that is merely smelling God. Does not describing God with one's tongue also constitute jnana? It does, but that is merely having described God. In this way, jnana can be attained through the physical Indriyas. It can also be attained through the Antahkaran as well as directly from experiential jnana of the jiva, of the soul, which transcends both the Indriyas and the Antahkaran. Of these, which jnana are you speaking of? In fact, in order to create the cosmos, God assumed the form of Aniruddha, within which dwells the mobile and immobile world along with space. In the form of Sankarshan, God destroys the cosmos. In the form of Pradyumna, he sustains the cosmos. He also assumes various avatars such as Matsya, Katsha, etc. He also assumes these forms according to whichever task needs to be accomplished in whichever place. Some of these tasks are such that they are imperceptible to the Indriyas and Antahkaran, and can only be known by experience. By the way, throughout this Vachanāmrut, experience should be understood to mean experiential jnana, knowledge through the jiva, because it refers to the jnana, the knowledge of the divine form of God, not just the form of God that is perceivable through the senses or the mind. For the successful completion of these tasks, God assumes a form accordingly. On the other hand, some of these tasks are perceptible to the Indriyas and Antahkaran. For the successful completion of these tasks again, God assumes an appropriate form. Thus, the jnana of which God's forms is instrumental in attaining liberation. Well, that was a question. Let me allow my intonation to reflect that. Thus, the jnana of which of God's forms is instrumental in attaining liberation? Is that your question? Nityanand Swami confirmed. We are saying that the liberation is attained by the jnana of God, whose form can be realized by the Indriyas, the Antahkaran, and experience. Shriji Maharaj then explained that God is Shri Krishna. he has said of himself in the Bhagavad Gita, a few different verses. I'll read them to you. First, from the 15th chapter, 18th verse. Yasmat ksharam atitoham aksharad api chotam atosmi loke vede cha pratitaha purushotamaha. Which means, I transcend all that is perishable and am greater than even the imperishable. Therefore, I am known in the Smritis and Vedas as Purushottam. Next, the 10th chapter, 42nd verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Vishtabhi. I'll try that again. Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekanshena stito jagat. Meaning, I sustain the entire universe with a single fragment of myself. And the 7th chapter, 7th verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Madhaha bharataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana iva. Which means, O conqueror of wealth, Arjun, there is nothing at all that is greater than me. All this creation is strung upon me like a series of gems on a thread. Finally, there's Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, 5th verse. Bhashya me bhart rupani shatashodha sahasrashaha nana vidhani divyani nana varna krtini cha. Which means, O son of Pritha, Arjun, behold my hundreds and thousands of divine forms that are of various types and of assorted colors and shapes. In these and many other verses, he describes himself as imperceptible to the Indriyas and the Antahkaran. Thus, knowing God perfectly means knowing the manifest form of God through the Indriyas, the Antahkaran, and experience. Only then can one be said to possess perfect jnana. However, if any of these three types of jnana is lacking, one cannot be said to have realized ultimate jnana, nor can one overcome the cycle of births and deaths. In fact, even though someone may have attained the Brahma Svarup state through their personal endeavors, if they do not realize the manifest form of God in this manner, they cannot be said to possess perfect jnana. That is why it is said in the Srimad Bhagavat, Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam. From the 1st canto, 5th chapter, 12th verse, meaning, indeed, even pure jnana, wherein all karmas have been renounced, is not elegant if it is devoid of bhakti, loving devotion towards God. The Gita also states in the 4th chapter, 17th verse, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmanah akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. Which means, the nature of karmas should be understood, the nature of prohibited karmas should be understood, and the nature of non-karma should be understood. Indeed, the way of karma is very complex. Karma just meaning action. even in the state of non-karma, i.e. Jnana, there is still something left to be realized. That is to say, even after one has become Brahmarup, of the form of the divine, one still has to realize Parabrahman Purushottam. Only one who is Brahmarup has the right to offer bhakti, loving devotion, to Purushottam. Now, what constitutes bhakti, loving devotion? It is when one becomes Brahmarup and performs the bhakti of the manifest form of God with sandalwood paste, flowers, shravan, manan, etc. Shravan refers to listening, manan refers to intellectually processing, etc. Just as the Nirana Muktas of Shvetdvip have become Brahmarup, perform puja of Bhagwan Narayan by offering various types of offerings, such as sandalwood paste, flowers, etc. Thus, God has mentioned in the Gita, again from the 18th chapter, 54th verse, Brahma Bhutaha Prasannatma Na Shojati Na Kshati Samah Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param, which means one who has become Brahmarup remains joyful, grieves nothing, desires nothing, behaves equally with all beings, and attains my supreme bhakti. Thus, one who does not offer bhakti to Parabrahman after becoming Brahmarup cannot be said to have attained ultimate liberation. Furthermore, another verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 4th verse, 7th chapter, Bhumira Nalo Vayuhu Khamano Budhirevacha Ahangara Itiyam Me Bhinna Prakritir Ashtadha Prithvi Jal Tej Vayu Akashman Budhi and Ahangar. I realized we had shifted into the English translation, but I was retaining my attempt at the Vedic tones. Yes, Prithvi, this is earth, Jal, water, Tej, fire, Vayu, air, Akash, space, Man, mind, Buddhi, intellect, and Ahanghar, egoity. These are my 8 forms of Prakriti, nature. This also describes the all-pervaded Jad Prakriti. Also, from the 7th chapter, 5th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabho yayedam dharate jagat, which means the lower Prakriti, nature. But, O mighty armed Arjun, also know my other Prakriti, the transcendental Prakriti, the very element of life, in other words, Chaitanya, pure awareness, by which this world is upheld. Such is the all-pervasive Chaitanya Prakriti. That manifest form of God is such that he is the the supporter of both the 8 forms of pervaded Jad Prakriti and also of the Chaitanya Prakriti that pervades therein. For example, Akash, space, is the supporter of the other 4 elements, Prithvi, Jal, etc. Whenever Prithvi contracts, Akash contracts along with it. When the Prithvi expands, Akash also expands along with it. Similarly, Akash also contracts and expands along with the contraction and expansion of Jal, Tej, and Vayu. However, Prithvi and the other elements all contract and expand within Akash. In the same way, God expands and contracts along with the expansion and contraction of these two Prakritis, natures, while they themselves contract and expand within God himself. That God is the Atma, the self of all. This fact is stated in the Shrutis. Many more verses. First from the Yajurveda, from the Aranyaka, which I think is an Upanishad, 3rd canto, 11th chapter. Antahpravishtaha shasta jananam sarvatma, meaning God who enters within all is the controller and Atma of all beings. Next from the Subala Upanishad, 7th chapter, 1st verse. Yasya kasharam shariram esha sarva bhutan dharatma bhata bhapma divyo deva eko narayana, meaning he whose sharir, whose body is the imperishable, is the indwelling Atma, self of all beings, is devoid of all evil, and is the one divine God, Narayan. Next from the 5th canto, 7th chapter, 26th verse of the Briharda. This is a difficult one. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Yasyatma shariram ya atmanam antaro yamayati sata atmanantaryam yamrutaha, meaning he whose sharir, the body, are the Atmas, the selves, and who governs all Atmas from within, is your Atma, the Antaryami, the innermost dweller. And immortal. And from the same Briharanyaka Upanishad, 5th canto, 7th chapter, 7th verse. Yasya prithibhi shariram yaha prithibhim antaro yamayati sata atmantaryam yamrutaha. He whose sharir, whose body, is Prithvi, earth, and who governs it from within, is your Atma, self, the Antaryami, and is immortal. Very similar verses. Furthermore, even food, the mind, knowledge, and bliss have been described as Brahman, the ultimate reality, the Godhead. That is, various types of Brahma Vidya, ultimate knowledge, has been mentioned. What is the significance of this? Well, even those things have been called Brahman because God is the cause of all and the supporter of all. However, they are all the sharir, the body, and their shariri, the embodied, is the manifest form of Sri Krishna Purushottam. Both the Jad and Chaitanya, the lower and higher forms of nature, Prakriti, along with entities evolved thereof in the expanded and contracted states, dwell easily within God. Moreover, God dwells within them as their Antaryami, their innermost dweller, and as their cause. It is that very God who is this manifest form. To know and see God with such an understanding of His glory is called perfect Jnana. Thereupon, Muktanand Swami asked, if a person cannot experience the glory of God in this manner, but does have a firm conviction of it in his Antahkaran, then can that be said to be perfect Jnana or not? Shriji Maharaj replied, In a dark house, one can faintly see the grain store, the pillars, etc. But due to the darkness, they cannot be said to have been seen totally. In the same way, both the Jad, the world, and Chaitanya, the awareness of Prakriti, of this nature, reside within Purushottam Bhagwan, and he dwells within them as well. But if one experiences this only by inference and does not actually see it, then they cannot be said to possess perfect jnana. Nevertheless, because they have such a firm conviction, they surely must have experienced some sort of transcendental powers of God in the past. If not, they will experience them in the future. Despite having such a doubtless conviction, if one does not experience that transcendence, one should think God possesses all those powers, but he does not reveal them to me because that is his wish. If a person offers bhakti, loving devotion to God with such understanding and remains fulfilled, then he can also be said to possess perfect jnana. Thus, a devotee with jnana is one who thoroughly knows God through the Indriyas, the senses, the Antahkaran, the inner organs of perception and experience. Such a devotee has been praised in the Gita as the best of all devotees. From the 7th chapter, 16th and 17th verse. Arto jignasur artharthe jnani cha bharatarshabha desham jnani nitya yukta eka bhaktir vishishyate. Meaning, O Supreme, among the descendants of Bharat, Arjun, 4 types of virtuous persons worship me. One who is distressed from having fallen from the path of attaining yogic powers and thus still wishes to attain them. One who seeks knowledge of the Atma, in other words, Atma realization, self-realization. One who desires material objects, i.e. material pleasures and powers, and one who has jnana, knowing wisdom. Of these, the one with jnana is the best because they are always engaged in me and is devoted to me alone. Such a devotee with jnana faithfully serves the manifest form of God, who eternally has a form, realizing him as transcending Prakriti, Purush, and Akshar, and as being the cause and supporter of all. Such understanding constitutes jnana, and such jnana leads to ultimate liberation. Some who do not understand this merely claim Aham Brahmasmi, the great saying, I am Brahman, from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, 3rd canto, 4th chapter, 10th verse. One of the Mahavakyas, great sayings from the scriptures. They proclaim, I am the form of Brahman, and Ram, Krishna, etc. are merely manifestations emanating from me. Such sacrilegious, unorthodox Vedantis of today are extremely evil and grave sinners. At death they are consigned to Narak, to the lower realms, and they will never be released from there. And what a powerful way of ending Vachanāmrut Loya 7. So thank you for listening. Now to add some commentary to that ending verse. This Vachanamrut, by the way, has been gifted to me by someone who grew up in the BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha, and so this Vishishtadvaita tradition, which recognizes the non-dual nature of God whilst making room for nuances, for different entities, is very dear to them. Such is the reason I have been reading the Vachanāmrut as an offering in return for their support, their love that they lend me. But they are also not just a student of present Mahant Swami Maharaj, but also Swami Taratmanandaji, who is an Advaita Vedantam. So the person who sent me this has both appreciation for Vashishtadvaita as well as Advaita Vedanta. And it is true that in Advaita Vedanta, there is the Mahavakya Aham Brahmasmi. However, I believe the kind of Vedantin that Shriji Maharaj is referring to is different from a proper Vedantin who does not merely say that Krishna or Ram is a manifestation of themselves, but rather that we are of the same essence of Krishna and Ram. No one could be Ram or Krishna, and a true Advaita Vedantin would not say that either, just to be clear. There is room for such a realization that we are of the same nature as Brahman. But that does not mean we are identical with Purushottam Bhagwan. No one can be that. Rather, the metaphor is that we are like a wave in the ocean, and the whole ocean is Purushottam Bhagwan, Para Brahman. But Brahman is the water, and just like a wave and an ocean, we are both of water, both of the nature of Brahman. So I hope that additional commentary of mine is not sacrilegious or unorthodox, and I don't get consigned to Narak. I believe there is room for different traditions of Vedanta to coexist, and I'm all for bridging gaps between various traditions. Nonetheless, I'm very happy to be reading this Vachanāmrut, and I will consign myself from giving commentary when unnecessary. But thank you for listening. Jai Swaminarayan.